So today you're going to focus on Unit 3 final review. Remember, Unit 3 was all about transformation. So we're going to talk about reflections, rotations, and translations. The main thing to keep in this is a rigid motion. So remember, a rigid motion is a transformation that when you move an object, it does not change the angle measure or the side measures. So it produces congruent figures. So a translation is like a slide, a rotation you're turning it, and a reflection is a mirror image. So looking at the reflections up here, remember you have some rules in your composition notebook, so make sure you use that today. If it's a reflection over the x-axis, it's now going to become x comma negative y. Reflection over the y-axis is negative x comma y. Reflection over y equals x, which is that diagonal line going in quadrants 3 and 1, is y comma x, and then y equals negative x is a line diagonal that goes through quadrants 2 and 4, and that rule is negative y comma negative x. A rotation, you have different rules. So remember, a rotation is when you turn it, it's 90 degrees, 180, 270, and a rotation is always counterclockwise unless it says clockwise. So it's always counterclockwise unless it says clockwise. So just to go over your rules, a rotation of 90 degrees is negative y comma x. Rotation of 180 is negative x comma negative y. Rotation of 270 is x comma or y comma negative x, and then remember, when it says a negative rotation, that means the other way. So if you don't want to think about it like that, you could add 360 and you would get 270, so it has the same rule as a rotation of 270. A translation is just a slide. So you're taking one figure, you're counting how many spaces up you go and then how many over, and that's what you're doing for every point. Remember that there's compositions, which means there's many different transformations you can apply to one figure. So moving from figure 1 to 2, and then you would do 2 to 3. So 1 to 2 would be a reflection, and then 2 to 3 would be a translation. So make sure you label what picture you're going to when you do these problems. Lastly, we talked about lines of symmetry and then rotation. So remember, in any figure that has 5 sides or above, the line of symmetry is equal, and symmetry means just where can you fold it so that shape perfectly matches up with each other. So if you're thinking about a pentagon has 5 sides, so therefore it would have 5 lines of symmetry. Rotational symmetry, remember, you use 360 divided by n. So n means the number of sides, and that's how many degrees it rotates. And then to generate a list, you just do, let's say you did 360 divided by 10, because it was a decagon, you would get 36. So every 36 degrees it's going to match up. So you would just keep doing 36 plus 36 and get that number, then add 36 to that, get that number, all the way up, and it will add up to 360. Lastly, remember, this open circle means composition, where you have to read right to left. So it wants you to do a reflection first and then a translation. So just a reminder, big R means rotation, little r means reflection, and then big T means translation. So I'm going to do 2 problems with you, and then I'm going to have you do the rest on your own. And you're going to have to submit it by Wednesday morning. So 270 says, which point shown in the graph below is the image of point P after a counterclockwise rotation of 90 degrees about the origin? So point P is here. Counterclockwise means I'm going this way. 90 degrees means I'm turning it once. So if we imagine, if I take this axis and I turn it once 90 degrees, so it would look like this. Now my red point is on point A. So therefore, point A would be your answer. Remember, if you're doing this on paper, you can always take a scrap piece of paper, put it on point P, trace your axes, and then turn your paper. 272 says triangle ABC is graphed on the set of axes below. Graph and label triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. The image of triangle ABC after a reflection of x equals 1. So x equals 1 means that it's a line where all my x values are 1. So if we're thinking about where x equals 1 is, it would be this point. Now if I tried to move this way, that would mean my x value would change to 2. So I know that's not right. If I move up though, I see that my x value is still 1, my y value is changing. So this line right here would be x equals 1. Now to do a reflection over that line, all you have to do is count the spaces from the original triangle to the red line and then repeat it on the other side. So what I mean is if I start with B, I see there's 1 space to the red line, so I'm going to count 1 space over to on the other side of the red line, and that would be my B prime. I'm going to repeat that with C and A. So again, I start at C, I count 1 space over, which means I have to do a 1 space over on the other side and plot my point. So that's C prime. Lastly, we have to do A, so that's 1 space, 2 space, 3, 4, so I got to go 4 on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would be my A prime. Then I'm just going to connect all of my dots together. So if you don't know how to do a problem, I would suggest looking at your composition notebook and seeing if you can find something in there, or go back to your notes in Notability. So good luck. Make sure you submit it before Wednesday morning.